You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
Maria Menounos and Bing.com present live from the Kari Feinstein Oscar Style Lounge at the world-famous Mondrian Hotel on Sunset Blvd in Los Angeles, California. And streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Movie Edition. Tonight's AFTERBUZZ movie is The Iron Lady. We'll break down everything from the making of The Iron Lady to behind the scenes and everything in between. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite movie. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Iron Lady.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another AFTERBUZZ TV podcast. We're coming to you from the Kari Feinstein Oscar Style Lounge gift suites here at the Mondrian Hotel on Sunset Blvd in Hollywood, California. Hollywood. And joining me today, we're going to be speaking about The Iron Lady. And joining me are three lovely ladies. We got Bethany Jaber, Katherine Tulich, and Courtney Stewart. So we are here for the next 2 days. By the way, this is the weekend before the 2012 Oscars, and we are podcasting. We'll be talking about movies. As people come through the lounge, we'll help bring them up here. We'll have interviews with them. We'll get their take on the movies. We'll get their what they liked, what they hope to win, and what they're doing next. In the meantime, we'll be breaking down The Iron Lady. So the first thing I want to ask is, wasn't it nice to see Margaret Thatcher on the big screen?
Have you always wanted to see Margaret Thatcher on the big screen?
Yes, exactly.
I have. I love it. She was amazing. Gave me a much better view than my 7th grade history teacher.
Yeah.
Or different view. Maybe not better, but definitely different. So.
For me, everybody's been talking about Meryl's performance, which of course we'll talk about as well. But it was really hard to not, after you had seen the movie, it was really hard not to talk about the movie without talking about that performance.
Of course.
I mean,
they're almost one and the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist without outside of that because it is about Margaret, and it is almost eerie. The way in which she transcends and becomes her.
She's nuts.
She's miraculously amazing.
She is. Okay, but before we get into the movie, let's talk a little bit about how it became a movie.
Yes.
So what was the road that it took, Courtney?
It was an interesting sort of creative path. I found that the producer, Damian Jones, was sort of inspired just from watching The Queen. And he has been wanting to do something for Margaret Thatcher and was kind of trying to figure out how he wanted to go down that way. He found his way to Abby Morgan, who wrote the screenplay. And they sort of debated back and forth how they wanted to approach it, especially with Margaret Thatcher obviously still being alive and sort of what path to take. And at first it started focusing on just the Falkland Island War.
Right.
And then they sort of moved along a little bit and kind of found their way to Miss Thatcher's daughter's book that she had written about being the daughter of Margaret Thatcher. And they decided to go in a direction of showing sort of her as she is, sort of reflecting on her life in the past, and that was sort of the jump start that gave Abby the
it's different because that's totally different from how they did The Queen,
of course,
or The King's Speech, because those are about ostensibly about specific instances and things surrounding it, but this was a whole spanned years, decades, rather than being about something specific.
Yeah, and it was interesting that they sort of wanted to take on her as a person, and sort of, they've gotten obviously a lot of criticism about how they decided to
exactly, which we'll get into.
The screenplay.
So they wanted to show the Iron Lady behind the Iron Lady.
That's right.
So much about it for me in connection with the Queen is point of view, because Peter Morgan told that story through the point of view of the Queen. And here we begin with Margaret Thatcher, and she's in her later years, but it is from her point of view.
I think that's really important because they're very much saying this is not a documentary. It's very much a work of fiction because it is totally subjective. It's totally from Margaret Thatcher's point of view.
And what her life might be like. Might be like now.
Yeah, it might be like now, of course. And I mean, even things like, you don't see any women in the Parliament. And they're saying, well, there was, but from Margaret Thatcher's point of view, there wasn't. So things like that, there's a lot of dramatic license taken because it really is a subjective film.
So that's how it became a film. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
To be terribly honest, a majority of the time I find biopics offensive. Offensive because the filmmaker will approach it from a linear point of view, and they try to cram their entire life into an hour and a half, which is. I don't necessarily feel the film format is meant for that. Maybe something serial would be more appropriate, but I love that they're okay with just picking moments in time. They don't try to fit it all in. It's one of my favorite things about this film. It almost feels like an art piece because they're doing it from her fragmented imagination.
And also what a beautiful way to do it too, because I think, it's basically 3 days in her life. And she's going through her deceased husband's wardrobe and that, and little things, just little trigger memories, and that is what makes it such a work of art.
Like, we don't even know if it's the memory; it's your idea of the memory.
It's the idea of memory, but if anyone has ever had to do that is what just triggers memories. Is kind of having to let go and things that trigger parts of your past, and that's what I think is such a beautiful key into this film.
Right. So that's how it became a film, and of course, casting. Well, if you had your druthers.
Well,
and you can get anybody to play.
Could you think of anyone other than Meryl Streep to play this?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
No, I know.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I mean, you could have gone, I guess, for an unknown person, right? There's probably great British actors out there. But what I liked about what the director said, Felida Law, who also did Mamma Mia, so she's got a great relationship.
That was her first feature to direct.
Great relationship with Meryl.
She directed in stage and opera and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Her first feature was Mamma Mia.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was huge, 400 million, like 500 million or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And working with Meryl, so I guess that's a nice way in for the next one.
Exactly. So. But she did say, first of all, portraying Margaret Thatcher is going to be a lightning rod because she's loved and hated. And then she said getting Meryl Streep to play Margaret Thatcher could be another lightning rod, but she felt like in the end that you needed a superstar to play what was essentially a superstar. So I like that choice, instead of going for an unknown, going for someone that could really pull this off.
I read just a little bit about what kind. There wasn't seem to be that much backlash of using an American.
Yeah.
I wonder if there'd be more backlash if it wasn't Meryl Streep. Because everybody goes, well, at least she got Meryl.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think there might have been. I mean, because it's kind of like you got Meryl Streep. Okay, you at least got the best.
Exactly.
Of the best.
So
I know. Well, the BAFTAs gave her an award, so I guess that's the British saying that
we're
happy you did Margaret Thatcher.
It's okay.
You did all right.
We like you.
Yeah. I think the fact that she wanted a superstar to play a superstar, I get that when she said that, I went, she's right.
Yeah, exactly. But I liked Meryl actually talking about taking on this role. She said that she was, even that, come on, this woman has taken on Ozzy and Evil Angel. She's taken on so many amazing kind of roles and from different countries. But she said that she was really nervous because, especially some of the first scenes walking into the Parliament, she was confronted with like 35 British actors that really knew Margaret Thatcher, that really knew the history. And she said that she felt really intimidated, but she said that the director liked that because in the fact that Margaret Thatcher was also an outsider.
Would have felt the same thing.
Would have felt the same way. Would have felt just as intimidated walking into that group of men. So that sort of she
with
brought that to
something to prove and
justification
and all that other stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. But the other thing I liked about what Meryl said is that she sort of saw it on a personal level as well because she'd recently lost her parents and she's also had experience with dementia in her family as well. So she took this very personally in the way that, looking at how people age, looking at people, how they lose things and that. And I think that's for her was more the key to this than actually portraying this famous politician.
And I read that one quote that she was really interested in playing a part that dealt with, quote, the end of things, end quote. Which I thought was, first of all, this is a great way to say it. And then I went, and that was her way in, and the whole, for me anyway, as I read that, that's why she did it.
I know.
Dealt with that. I'm sure it could be coming off the parents and all that other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, those scenes, like when she's in the store in the beginning, and the way she's creates that really old person, I think is amazing because the director was considering 3 actresses in the beginning. So, as you know, we have a younger Margaret Thatcher, Alexandra Roach, who is basically straight out of drama school. So this is kind of her first role.
Not bad.
Not bad.
So amazing.
I'm playing a younger Meryl.
I get to play young Meryl.
Not a Margaret Thatcher. I'm playing a younger Meryl.
I'm playing young Meryl. Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret
What's up?
Thatcher.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Straight
not a
out
bad
of-
first role.
Not a bad first run at all.
She's excellent in the film.
And then you got Jim
Yes, she
Broadbent
really
to
is.
play against.
Now, this for me is a revelation too, because I think if you remember any history with Margaret Thatcher, and I sort of remember the headlines and stuff when I was in Australia, poor old Dennis Thatcher,
Oh, yeah.
he got such a lampooning in the press. You saw him as this idiot, this buffoon, this guy that had, really was such a wimp. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that you've got Jim Broadbent bringing so much humanity and so much depth to Dennis Thatcher.
Yes, he did.
And for me, I found that even more of a revelation than humanising Margaret Thatcher in this.
I did too.
Yeah, I loved seeing
Because again,
Dennis
he
Thatcher.
just loved her.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was so important, and it sort of brought how important this relationship was to Margaret Thatcher. He wasn't just the buffoon in the back that she could dominate and just tell what to do. The fact is their relationship was really important, and the fact is, she's found it so hard to accept his loss because he was so key to her. Yeah, and that's what the beautiful kind of love story is in this as well.
I saw a great quote that was talking about
Yeah.
his portrayal and saying how he really was the 21st century man and
Yes.
it was way before his time. And
Yeah.
it warmed my heart because my information of Margaret Thatcher leading into the movie was from studying like middle school and sort of her harsh political tones, and to see he brought a real human, soft, beautiful side of what their relationship was, and it's so easy for the public and
he was
people,
a sissy.
especially with women, to just demonize them and make them
Exactly.
these hard, horrible people because they're powerful and they've come about.
They're shrill.
And of course, because she's powerful, he must be weak.
That's what they said in the movie. I'm not
And it's
agreeing.
so
I
great
know.
to see that that's how they presented him to the audience. And
Yeah.
he was so, it was so joyful. It was so kind and sweet part of the movie. I appreciated it so much.
Yeah.
And his characterization helps you understand her even better, I think.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that really is the
Absolutely.
thing that, like I said, humanises Margaret
Yeah.
Thatcher to this kind of image that we had of her as this really hard woman that, had no soft side to her as well at all.
And still called her to task on a few things, which is like,
Yes.
it's like great. Love that. Okay, we have to talk a little bit about Phillida Law.
Yes.
Because she's the director. She took on this project after, I didn't really read, what drew her to it other than the obvious.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, did anybody else read anything about that?
Well, I think she got Abby Morgan's script originally.
That was it? That was the thing?
Yeah, that's what she read,
And then it
and
went
that
through- yeah.
basically, she was.
We have to talk about, why they chose this part of it, or what we think that, led to that. Because it could have been easier to tell a more traditional biopic, as you were saying, trying to get all of it in. Or they could have isolated on one incident like the Argentinian thing. But they chose to do it this way, and they chose not to really talk about the politics because they got a lot of heat for not being political.
Yes.
The
Yes.
right
They got a
thought
lot
it was going to be a hatchet job, the left thought it was going to be a chance to bash her, and it was neither, so everybody was unsatisfied.
And then they're still mad. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
still mad.
They're
understand.
mad as it. And it wasn't even really political, except for the sense that the political statement, if any, she was making was, even today, there are few women in Parliament.
Yeah.
If that's a political statement at all.
Yeah.
It just goes back to point of view.
Yeah.
The story is told just from her point of view.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. And
For me,
it's
it's
so
not-
simple.
It's not even a story about politics. It's about loss.
Yeah.
It's a story about the cost of what that kind of life bears on the people you love and you as yourself. I love the idea because somebody was I think it was the director was talking about how it was Shakespearean in nature.
Yeah,
This
like a
woman
King
of
Lear.
humble,
Like a Lear. Yeah.
humble origins, the grocery store daughter, or daughter of a grocery store owner, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And she rises to power, becomes the first female prime minister of Britain, and ends up being a lonely woman
Yeah.
suffering from dementia,
Yeah.
talking to people who aren't there. And the arc of that story is wow.
Yeah.
When you look at it like that and take it on on those merits, rather than having it be a political story or have the story be what you want it to be, but just take it on the story that it presents, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't see her as lonely.
I
That
did.
didn't
Yeah.
stick
Really?
out to me as much. No, I saw her as somebody who was suffering with dementia, but I didn't. There's at the end of the movie. Actually, at the beginning of the movie, she says, "I will not wash a teacup."
Yeah.
And then at the end, she's so peaceful in that act of watching a teacup. I felt some content in
Well,
that.
I don't
act.
disagree. I just think
Yeah.
there were moments in the movie for me that I felt that not only was she
Yeah.
lonely, I felt her solitude.
But I think it's also interesting, if you compare it to past prime ministers, really don't have, past leaders, like a past prime minister in the UK does not have the reverence that past presidents, say, have in this country.
Right.
They almost just become commoners
They
again.
go back to regular life.
Yeah, they go back to regular life. I think that's really interesting. I mean, you couldn't see a Clinton or a Bush kind of in a little grocery store
looking at
milk.
Whoa,
look who we got.
Welcome.
All right. Well, why don't you scoot on over as much as you can. Scoot on over. There you go. Bring that mic forward. And please introduce yourself. And
I am Christine Rucker with Enza Essentials by Rucker MD. Skincare line. I know you're talking about the Iron Lady and Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, we are.
And Meryl Streep. So she's like, endless beauty, ageless beauty, right?
Right.
Beautiful skin.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we at Rucker MD and Essentials have some great tips for the ladies for the red carpet.
Wonderful.
Great. Yeah, so
Always need those.
yeah, you just have a few days, right? You just got a few days coming up trying to get ready. So a couple things that you can do is maybe sleeping with your head elevated. A couple of pillows, so you're not getting that puffiness around your eyes, right? So keep it from coming down. Store your eye cream in the refrigerator, so when you're putting that on, it's cooling, it's refreshing to give you that real.
I'm writing these down.
I know.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Where's my pen?
Exactly. Another thing you can do too to stay hydrated and have that dewy finish is to sleep with a humidifier a few nights before.
I do that.
Do you? You're so smart. You're so good.
Not in the bed, though, right?
Not in the bed.
Okay.
Next to the bed.
Next to the bed.
Next to the
Okay.
bed.
I just
Yeah.
like the sound of it, but it works.
It does.
Absolutely
It does.
works.
It gives you that dewy glow. It helps hydrate your lips. Get for that plumpness, which is wonderful. Another thing, I talked about putting the eye gel in the fridge. Also, your cleanser. If you put your cleanser in the refrigerator, it gives you that refreshed, vibrant, woke look. So, there's lots of different things you can do, Obviously, you'll need to drink water, flush all that stuff out of your system. And another thing, too, with all the lights and the cocktails and all the things going on, it can cause you to be a little flushed.
Of course.
We have a wonderful product called Rosa Calm. It has willow bark in that. That's going to keep your skin calm, and nobody's going to know that you've had a few too many cocktails, right?
Those are some great tips. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Please remind everybody.
www.enza.com.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
Enjoy the day. Our quick tips.
Yeah, those are great. I'm going to
In the
use
fridge, I love it.
I know.
some of
Really
them.
need the non-puffiness.
Yeah.
All right. I feel better now.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments in this movie, actually it's not, it's many moments. It's the thread of Shall We Dance? Rodgers and Hammerstein, and it's just there are many threads in this with the milk and the grocery and the price of things, but there's something just so tangible in the way the director portrays that relationship. And every time that song comes up, for me, those feelings came up. Did that happen with you?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
It's such an efficient way to use music in a story. I love it. I love it so much. I also love The King and I. I watch that at least once a year. I don't know about you. Little Yul Brynner, some Bob
We're
Marley.
learning more of the story as it goes.
Here we go.
Well, I thought one of the really smart things they did was that opening shot of her in the store buying what it was, milk or whatever, with nobody attending to her, no helpers, no whatever it is, or what are they? Handlers, thank you. That's the word I'm
That's what we
looking
call
for.
them in Hollywood.
No, it is, but that's what they call them in politics too.
Like they have
Because it told you right there, this is not going to be the Iron Lady you know.
Yeah.
The one with, big coiffed hair, and it's just not. This is not who that is. We're not telling that story, and that's why I don't understand why people were so angry with it.
They were? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are really mad at the movie.
Well, I think that a lot of the anger comes from the ones that love Margaret Thatcher,
Right.
hate the fact that she's portrayed as this kind of
Right.
incapable older lady, and then the ones that hate Margaret Thatcher hate the fact that she's been so humanised in
Right.
this film. So you can't
Exactly.
win.
That's what I mean. The
That's
left
right.
hated it for one reason, right hated it for another.
Yeah.
Never the twain shall meet. And I just go, but that's why I can't. I go, why did you even think that going in? I mean, I can understand it going in, but as soon as you saw that, you knew it's not going to be a political movie. It's just not. They're not.
That's not their role.
You know, from the first 5 minutes, you know it's not going to be that kind of movie.
Well, at least they feel something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, true.
Well, I guess she's still such a lightning rod for so many British people, particularly.
And do you know anything about that? How
Well,
she's
I mean,
a
I think,
lightning rod?
well, it's just interesting just to put a little bit in context, which you see in the film. I mean, this time was incredible turmoil. I mean, late 70s, 80s in the... We think we have it bad now.
Yeah, I know. But don't you find the parallels interesting about what's happening now? The austerity measures, the striking, the violence.
That's what's so creepy. That sort of, especially in the UK.
And some people are saying, well, the reason why we're in that situation is because of policies like her. Other people are saying, no, she was trying to prevent. I mean,
one of the smartest things but no one really listened to her was the fact that she did not want the European Union and the Euro.
Right.
But now look at the disaster that's happening with Greece, and she predicted all that.
Genius.
And that was actually what kicked her out of Parliament, because basically she would not agree to all that. So a lot of what she predicted was actually pretty smart. But a lot of the policies she put in. I mean, she was a Conservative Party, so
you would call them very conservative.
No, they're not conservative like our conservative.
For them.
For them it was, but I mean, she was still pro-abortion, she was still pro-gay rights, so I mean, conservative...
That's always fascinating.
As Meryl Streep said, she's a feminist whether she believes it or not.
That's what I mean, so conservatism is a different...
Yeah, it's a different beast.
Meaning. But in terms of, one of the big things that a lot of people still hate her for is the fact that she broke down the unions.
Both the unions,
The unions were so powerful.
Decimated,
I mean, there was garbage strikes. There was sort of 1 year miners strike.
Yeah.
I mean, the unions controlled so much, and she broke them down, and a lot of people still hate her for that.
Right.
The fact that she, sort of broke this kind of socialist system down that was so entrenched. So that's one of the reasons there's still so much hatred.
Yeah.
But, just even the turmoil, the IRA was, bombing. I mean, the things that she went through is just, extraordinary. The era that this woman was in power is just...
Yeah, so as an American, I obviously was aware of her. I knew a fair amount about her, but seeing the movie made me want to go back. In fact, I did a little bit more just to learn a little bit, because I was fascinated by her, the story that they told. I go, because I knew about the Argentina, I can't remember the
Falklands
boat.
War, yes, the Falklands War, yes.
Whatever
which
the
was
boat that
also
she
very
sank, the ship,
controversial
excuse
that
me.
she
Yeah,
went
exactly.
in.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But I love the argument she made in the movie.
That was quite...
Yes, exactly.
Sit back and not, attack after Pearl Harbor. No.
My image of that era is also, punk music. This was kind of the Sex Pistols. This was anarchy in the UK.
Yeah.
This was total turmoil, the late 70s and early 80s in the
so
UK.
many pop songs were specifically targeted her.
Exactly. No,
if you look at the soundtrack, if you look at the titles of everything, it's very... Advantageous isn't the right word, but it's very political.
Yeah.
The soundtrack in general. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So where do you think the breakdown is, just in terms of the public perception of what the movie is when they go? Because most people I know went with an idea of what it was going to be. Sometimes you do that based on marketing, or sometimes you do it because of history. This is a real a person, obviously. So you have some sort of, if you don't have any idea, that's one thing, you go in and you don't know. But if you know anything about it, you probably come in with something. And obviously, I think the Brits did, and that's one reason why they're in such consternation about what was on the screen.
What do you think people had? Because it's interesting, they were saying when they were casting some of the younger actresses, they didn't even know who Margaret Thatcher was.
Yeah.
They said one actress came in and she only Googled her. So I just kind of interested, because from people that if you went into this movie and didn't know anything about Margaret Thatcher, I kind of
You think she's not a bad lady?
She's not so bad. Yeah, for sure. But I think Abby Morgan had a great quote that I wish I had looked up real quick. But they were saying about, obviously they were arguing about why they were so kind to her basically in the movie, and that they'd given her all this. And she said, where is it? Okay, I think you stop making someone culpable if you make them into a monster.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't agree with most of anything that she did while she was in office, but when they were tackling it, it was important not to make her a monster because it polarizes, and there was no reason for it.
It's too easy to, just cast them out being,
she was crazy, she was a monster, she was horrible. But at the same time, I found myself reading other things that are arguing sort of on the other side of it, that for instance, the people that are saying that it was awful because she is still alive and she has dementia, and we're treating her like we treat all the elderly suffering from such conditions. We are treating them as forgotten, and there's no respect for her there. There's no, and I was just...
They made a movie out of her. How are you forgetting her?
But at the same time, I thought to myself, here's a woman that had so much power, but so much... She was such an inspiration in so many ways, and just as a woman and having been sort of that great in your lifetime, to already being portrayed as this and sort of in your weaker state, so to speak, I kind of understand why maybe for me, because I wondered, wait, did Margaret Thatcher die and I missed it when I was sort of reading more about what the movie was about? And in seeing it, I did sort of sympathize with those comments, because it kind of... not that people can't be human and that you can't fall from power or leave power and then turn into another life or what have you, but it just kind of, it's unfortunate, I think, for some to see, had she had been so much, and you don't know where she is mentally right now, and just, I understand a little bit out of respect that maybe it was a little
I also
soon for
think,
that.
I don't think they portrayed her in some bad light.
It's not about bad. It's about weakness, I think.
But here's the thing. But that's where we're all headed. That's why
I
think it's a
agree.
universal story. Which is why it's just so. If it wasn't Margaret Thatcher, if it was just some prime minister that we didn't know, it was a fictional portrayal of somebody, then you'd think it would be an amazing story, because wow, they showed the real. The end of things. We showed the frailty we're all going to face. But because it's a real person, it has a different thing to it. But for me, that's what made it more impactful. A woman of this stature, we're all going to go through it, even that. We can't escape it.
Wasn't there a lot of controversy, if I'm right, about Ronald? There was something that they were trying to do a Ronald Reagan thing here as well, and the fact is people didn't want to see what happened to Ronald Reagan.
Right.
Exactly. I think that was, it's almost like we don't want to...
They don't want the myth messed with.
They don't want the myth to go.
I would hate to say it's very American, but there is...
You just did.
Almost. There is an epidemic in this country in which we don't like to see things get old.
Yes.
There are a lot of people, when their parents get old, we don't take them in anymore. We actually just put them away in a home. And I think the really beautiful thing that this movie does is it forces us to look at one of our big issues, is how are we taking care of our elderly? What is it that we're doing? And it's not pretty to look at, but I also think that in service to her country, she put herself out there. And when you put yourself out there to the public in any respect, I think you know that people are going to do things with your image.
Right.
And the other thing
things you don't control.
The other thing I like, just on with that theme, I mean, how many people dismiss old people when they're walking around?
Of course.
You know, just don't even... And then if you actually sit down with some of these people and learn their stories...
They just want to talk.
They have the most amazing stories, but we just dismiss them because we think they're old and they don't want to talk
And they have the best stories.
Yeah. They have incredible histories, you know?
See, for me, the movie's more of a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
It's like, look, this is going to happen to all of us.
Yeah.
All of us.
Exactly.
At some point. And, you know, get your stuff together. Figure it out. Do it before you die.
I don't know if they could have portrayed her in another way and it have worked, because they juxtapose her vulnerability to her strength. Yes. So then she's a full person for us. We see her when she's vulnerable. We see her when she's strong, and it gives so much shape to her. And she's flawed, and when they're flawed, then we relate to you. Then we love you all the more.
And I think because of what you were just saying, I think it was courageous to make the film, because no matter how you make it, somebody's going to have a problem. Faction's going to be pissed. Even if you made a political one, if it wasn't harsh enough, if they didn't do enough of a hatchet job, you'd be pissed off. They did too much of it, so no one was ever going to be satisfied that way. So they decided to make a human story and you know they're going to get messed with that way. So ultimately, and it's not pretty to look at in the sense that it's somebody who's getting old, and that's why I think it's courageous. Which is what I appreciated about it. I in fact thought it was beautiful. My mother suffered from dementia, so I understand that story. And I didn't find that. I found the beauty in that, because, well, for many reasons. But that for me was, I understood those moments. I'd been there at those moments, and I found them beautiful and tragic at the same time. That was for me.
No, I do feel it's an art film, especially because of, and I guess we'll get to it now, the color schemes that they're using, because they're doing it from her perspective, from her mind that is suffering from dementia. We have all these blues, these bright blues and grays, and it does look surreal. It's saying, no, this isn't actual life. This is life as my mind perceives it. And so that lets us know it's a skewed reality. We have another vendor.
Yes.
Oh, what a guest
Devorah Living Jewels.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hi. Get yourself right up to the mic. Come on in here. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you're...
I'm Devorah Libin.
And
Devorah Libin Jewels.
nice.
Lovely.
And so what are you providing?
Excuse me?
And what do you provide? What kind of jewelry are you providing?
Well, everything is handmade in New York.
Oh, beautiful.
And it's a lot of skulls and spikes and pave beads,
Aha.
little rocker chic.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot
Do you
of
have
fun.
any? Are you wearing any that we can see?
I am.
Ah, there we go.
I'm wearing
Very
a lot.
nice.
Yeah.
And the neon color, those are
The neon is huge right now.
Yes.
It's big for summer, but I personally think the worse the weather, the brighter the colors should be.
Is
I
that right?
completely
Okay.
agree.
I mean, seasonal affective disorder.
Never gonna
Bring
happen
on
around
the
you.
DLJ.
Okay.
I love it. It matches our logo right now.
It does.
It does. You're
Yes.
right. You can just stay here.
It works
And I'm right
very
next
well.
door to you. So.
Yes, right around the
It
corner
works
there.
out well.
Okay, do you have any ideas about some trends maybe that are coming on the red carpet with jewelry?
Well, I see a lot of neon colors. Neon is huge right now. So I think the brighter, the better. Stacking the bracelets. It's a lot of fun.
Can you imagine any way that they can blend those neons in their red carpet gear for the Oscars on Sunday?
Well, what's great about my bracelets is that you can mix them with the current jewelry that you already have. So if you have, a gold bangle bracelet or whatever, mix it up. Just stack them all on.
Sounds good.
Sorry.
To hear that. All right, now where can we find your jewelry if we're out
You
and
can
about?
find the jewelry at www.devorahlivinjewels.com.
Okay, fantastic.
be wonderful.
We will be looking that up right away. Now, we're here talking about Iron Lady. Were you able to see that this year?
I
at
was
all?
not.
Are you a Meryl Streep fan?
Of course.
Okay.
I'd like to see some of those on Meryl.
I know. I was just going to suggest
I
that.
agree.
What would you like to see her in?
I think she should wear.
She has definitely a
She's
distinctive
really into the
taste,
neon
yeah.
skull thing.
Yeah.
She should
I can
be.
see that.
Because she has a very simple style. She could
Yeah.
throw in some
Exactly.
extra jazz.
She's classic. She could
Just
wear it
throw
and
off.
it would be fine.
For
Exactly.
sure.
No
for
problems
sure.
there.
All right. Well,
We want to thank you so much for stopping by and gracing our table. Let me remind everyone one more time where you're
One
from.
more time, where are you from and
New
where we
York.
find it?
No.
Where can we
Oh,
find it?
Devorah
you're
Livin
doing-
Jewels.
There you go.
And we can find it at
DevorahLivinJewels.com.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much for joining us.
We were talking about, was it lighting or color? I can't remember.
Color. I was talking about
You know,
the
color.
Colors,
One of the
colors.
things I found fascinating in the research is they used the blues. She always wore
Everywhere.
blue.
Yes, that's why I'm in
I'm
my
not thinking
blue.
about the pearls.
Yeah.
That she
The
would.
pearls.
I love that part.
She refused to take off the
No.
pearls.
That was
You can take
beautiful.
the hat, but I'm keeping the
Pearls,
pearls.
yes. That was great. And even just was not sorry off the colour thing, but even just
Yeah.
the interesting how the voice was trained, and I mean,
Yeah.
how she took that lower
Yeah.
lower register to sound more
Which is
powerful.
exactly what we do here. We
And her lung capacity.
get our politicos to go through their little grooming process to make them palatable.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
I would
fascinating.
love to sit in on one of those sessions.
Yes.
I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see
Now,
how that works.
Tuck your head down, not too far. You don't want to look like you're looking down your nose at everybody. And all that kind of stuff.
Because the transformation, I think, is also a good thing to remember is that she was the daughter of a grocer.
Yeah.
And I mean, class in the UK
Was still-
is
Yeah.
far more a barrier. And actually,
Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher felt that she achieved more by crossing classes than
Right.
she did by as a woman getting into politics, because to be from a lower class like
Right.
that and to break through was really astounding for
Which is
someone to
ironic
do
because
that.
by breaking the unions as much as she did, she
Yeah.
kind of shrunk the middle class.
You know?
So, but it was, that was a political statement in and of itself for her to join be a member of parliament and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
An impressive one. Very, very
I'm
impressive.
curious on a personal level because Margaret Thatcher had a long-term relationship. She was able to, I'm wondering the effects of that. In comparison to Meryl Streep, the greatest actress, the greatest living actress. She also has something like a 30-year relationship with her husband. And those are the questions, if I got to sit down with her, I would like to ask. Because Hollywood is so flippant at times.
Yes.
One relationship, the next. But you look at the span of her career and you're like, my goodness, you've made so many fantastic films and played so many beautiful roles. How much is this attributed to the emotional stability in your relationship?
Yeah. Or vice versa. How much is that stability to, feed her art?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm sure living in Hollywood not living in Hollywood has helped.
Has helped. Because you get to experience real people and real
Catherine,
things.
the next time you get to interview her, can you ask that for me?
Of course.
Okay.
One of the things that I do remember her saying, which I kind of liked, she was saying that, she related a little bit as a mother because she said, with Margaret Thatcher, she had to make tough decisions, and sometimes that doesn't make you very popular. And as a mother, you have to do the same thing. You have to make tough decisions, and you're not very popular, but you have to think in the long run, is this the right thing to do?
I thought that's fascinating because they showed that one scene where she has to leave the house, and she drives away, and the little girl's crying. So there's that. And I'm wondering, because I couldn't figure this out. I'd love your feedback on this. Was she doing it because, did she make those decisions for the country because it was in the best interest of the country? And or how much of it was because it was for her? You know what I mean? I couldn't, as opposed to the mother where you're doing it for the better good of your child. Right. Hopefully.
Right. You're saying why did Margaret Thatcher make those kinds of decisions?
Because she's very ambitious.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how much of it, you know what I mean? There's that delicate play between I'm ambitious, and I think I'm the best person for this job, and I can fix the country, and I want to be prime minister.
Yeah.
So how much of that?
I
couldn't figure that out.
Whatever decision she made, I felt that they said she was a very instinctive politician. I think she was very much about. I think whatever decisions she was making, she thought were the best decisions for the country in a motherly way. Strangely, in a motherly way.
Everybody has always said whatever decision she made, it comes from a true conviction, meaning her conviction. It's not as much politically motivated as, no, I believe this to be true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know her personally, so who knows?
Don't know her personally either, but based on the film, I would guess that's how, from a personal perspective, she was convicted in everything that she believed.
Ladies, were you at all? As women, you see, she's the first prime minister of Britain.
The only one.
Was that cool? The only one, yeah. Did you do?
So far.
Yeah, right on. Why don't we have more of you?
Well, we just got our first prime minister a couple of years ago in Australia. First female prime minister in Australia.
You got Angela Merkel in Germany. So.
Yeah, but
she's on her.
Yeah, but the thing is too, you got to remember this is the 70s too, which was even more remarkable because women were not, to get in power in the 70s, and yet. The awful thing is things haven't changed that much.
Isn't it strange?
We
don't have anybody else.
I know. Hey, America, this is crazy, And
haven't gotten there yet.
No.
At the same time, you look at this film as an example of, we are moving forward. The writer is female. The director
in terms of filmmaking, yes, it's
we have
certainly. Well, it's always been that way. I think, in my estimation, art has always been ahead of politics.
I don't know enough about politics, so I can't comment.
Well, I think you've got to remember too, Meryl Streep very much supports women too, and I like that she supports women in the arts. She's working with female directors, female writers.
She also had a female editor.
I think that's
female
really
editor as well.
I think so.
And cinematographer, female cinematographer.
It's very female heavy, and it's wonderful.
I know, which is great. Which is a real sort of feminist statement anyway. The fact that so many women made this movie.
I think that's fascinating too, because I came across a lot of criticism saying that the film catered too much to a female cliche dealing with Margaret Thatcher. And even down to the scene you were mentioning earlier about her driving away from the children and the children chasing her, and it didn't. I'm like, who's right? Who is coming up with this stuff? Because these are women that have written it and sympathized with it and came up with it, and I don't see any woman that I know personally in a working environment that doesn't have
that to deal with.
And she has children, doesn't have that fear.
Didn't ring as cliche at all.
So to say that it's cliche, I was just shocked and amazed that New York Times mentioned that as a cliche. And I was like,
I don't know what woman doesn't have to deal with that.
What's the matter with you people? You men. What's wrong with you men?
Whoa.
I shouldn't say that.
Took a turn.
The New York Times quote.
But women that are under the microscope, they get more criticism that men would never get.
Still, in 2012. Why is that, John Comerford?
Well,
I don't know.
A perfect example would be what's happening currently with women's reproductive rights.
No comment
It's all
on that.
about him.
All right.
I just watched the debates last night.
We better move on. So, one of the things I liked was the way it was shot. And, when they, like, for instance, I just loved her the first time she goes into Parliament.
Yeah.
I thought that the set was great. And then just her, all those, I don't know. Is the word pompous old man right? Are those the right words? I'm not.
That's what I felt.
Privileged. Privileged.
Yeah.
Right, man. I just just a visual of that was stunning. Now I know that I think you had mentioned already that there were females in Parliament at the time, but the
Not
fact
from her
that
point of view, yeah.
yeah,
So,
exactly,
yeah.
and then.
And then just the other interesting point, just about point of view to it. The fact is, those speeches, those are actually paraphrased speeches of Margaret Thatcher because they weren't. Margaret Thatcher actually owns all her speeches.
Wow.
So
That's brilliant.
So they are
A new
not
age woman.
accurate speeches. They're paraphrased because you have to get Margaret Thatcher's permission
to use them.
to use them verbatim.
And the other thing,
And they weren't allowed to.
that's
awesome.
great. And the other thing that was so fascinating about her as a politician and a strategist is she learned that she had to develop a good lung capacity so that when she's answering questions, there was never a pause for the interviewer
Yes,
to ask another question.
Well, that brings up just another point that
She had like scorn for 6 minutes.
I'm going to try that.
And just keep going. And
I love that.
and by the time you get a chance, you
You don't
forget.
even know.
So you're basically filibustering an interviewer.
It's awesome.
Exactly. But Meryl Streep said that one of her inspirations was this interview she heard the BBC do with Margaret Thatcher.
Right.
And she said there was like 7 minutes of no break.
Yeah.
That Margaret Thatcher just kept talking. So the interviewer didn't even have a chance to interject.
Nobody
And
can
I
keep
mean-
up that. Nobody can keep that up.
And I know someone that when I'm interviewing somebody, you're always waiting. You usually get a lot of breaks.
Right.
So if someone's kind of going on and on and on about some boring thing that you don't want them to keep
And how do you
about.
how do you
We've
ask a
only got 10
follow up on a
minutes.
7-minute response?
You get in, you interject.
Yeah.
But if you had Margaret Thatcher, you'd be there going,
You're trying not to
"There's no
cut her
room
off.
to interject."
I would just go, hey, lock it up, Margie. And then, no, wouldn't do that. No, okay.
Not Margie.
But it's impressive. Just that she had the presence of mind to go, you know what? I think not only should I do this, I'll develop the capacity to do it, and then do it.
Yeah, I know.
Who thinks of that?
Yeah, incredible.
But it was intelligent.
Yeah. Go ahead.
How do you feel about how they incorporated actual footage into the film?
I think they did it very well,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I
I
did
think it
too.
gives you enough key points, especially if you're not aware of all what happened, like with the IRA and I think it was actually well integrated.
And I have to say, I really appreciated the editing because it was very sparse, and the whole thing was very clean. Nothing was cluttering it. It really didn't get in the way at all. I just like that because it really let you just be with her, rather than, oh wow, wasn't that cool? Or they just a lot of restraint, a lot of confidence and courage just to let it be, and not too fussy with it. And I just really liked that. I enjoyed that. It's Elliot Davis, by the way.
The moment that she leaves Downing Street and she's going down the stairs and the blue transforms into the red and she's doing it so courageously and with grace. Is the red because it's a transformation, because she's bleeding inside, but on the exterior she's holding it steady? What is the red all of a sudden? We haven't seen red the entire film until that moment.
Is it the contrast?
That's a
Is
really
it
good
the
question.
That's a great question. I got nothing.
I kept looking it up.
Probably nothing, but I mean, she was so against. Well, it's funny because red represents communism, and that's the reason she was called Iron Lady.
The communists called her that.
Because the Russians called her that because she was
They're
so.
so iron against communism.
Yeah, so I don't. It's probably got nothing.
I don't know.
to do
Maybe it
with
was a nod to that.
It might just because they
don't
have
know.
the red roses in her feet, and then they give her the radio.
Yeah.
And I love that. What does she say in that moment? She says it's a useful gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very useful gift. And I'm like,
yes. Very practical as always. One must have something to do,
but
not be.
I know.
it has to be one of my favorites.
I mean, that feeling too when you're so busy and you're in this position, and then you're right. Suddenly what
Are we ready?
What do you do with your time?
What do you do with yourself?
I think a lot of people feel that going into retirement.
How awful that sort of feeling of.
Oh, we have a guest.
The guest.
Natalia Ramos. Hello, welcome.
Guys, very special, very, very special. This is not only an unbelievable actress, but she's my best friend, Natalia Ramos. Yeah. She's the lead on Nickelodeon show House of Anubis. She was in Bratz. She's all over the place. So talk to her. She loves Iron Lady and very politically involved. Get her involved in the conversation.
All right, well, nice to try her.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing.
So you enjoyed the movie?
Okay, that's Iron Lady's absolutely my Oscar pick for the year. Absolutely.
Really? Why did you love it so much?
First of all, I'm a huge Meryl Streep fan. I think from an acting perspective, she transformed herself into this part like no other. If you put together a photo of Margaret Thatcher and Meryl, it's incredible. The resemblance is just striking. And she also played her in two different ages of her life, which I found really remarkable as well. Plus, I'm very into politics.
Oh, did you know much about Margaret Thatcher coming into this?
I did. I go to USC with Roxy. I'm a political science major. And I also filmed House of Anubis in England, so I lived there for 6 months. So I do know a little bit about English.
So, do you know about the feelings about this movie in Britain? Have you heard anything from friends that you know?
I actually do. I made a comment once about Margaret Thatcher and how I was very excited to see the film. And ironically enough, I lived in Liverpool, which is in the north of England, and the northerners in England, I realized, have a very different perspective than the southerners. And a lot of the Liverpool, for example, is a very working class city, and lots of blue collar folk, and a lot of them did lose their jobs because of many policies that Thatcher made. So there is some sort of hostility or resentment towards her government. I happen to be more of a conservative in my political views, so personally I instantly gravitated towards her, and I liked her very much as a leader. But living in Liverpool, I got a completely different perspective, and I saw some of the negative aspects of her government as well.
It's amazing how she still is so thought of, and whether people blame her or look at her. It's incredible that all these years later that she's still sort of so much in the mind there.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
She had such an impact, and I think one of the most impactful scenes in the film that really resonated with me, there's this one scene where they do a top shot of Parliament and everyone walking into the Houses of Parliament, and all you see is just suits, and then this one blue hat, like a woman's suit, walking through with all of these men. And I thought that was just such a symbolic gesture, form of just showing what she represented and how she had to struggle and all the things that she had to overcome to get to where she was. I think it's really remarkable.
Well, you came in it with some information about Margaret Thatcher. How do you feel about how the filmmakers handled the story and not making it very political, actually?
Yeah, I thought they did a very, very good job because it appealed to so many different types of people. So you didn't really need to know much about Margaret Thatcher or politics, and they took something that could possibly be boring and they made it really interesting, kind of like The Social Network. I feel like it could potentially be a really boring story.
Like reading a biography or a history lesson or something.
Exactly, but the writers were so brilliant in Social Network that they made it they turned a court case into something that was so interesting, and they did that with this movie as well. They made something, it really extended to all different types of demographics and different types of interests, and it was just a great story more than anything.
So even though you appreciated her political views and policies perhaps, did you enjoy seeing a personal side to her? Does that change your view of her?
It was interesting to see a personal side of her, and then as a politician I looked at it in one way, and then also as an actress I looked at it another way, and I think the acting overshadowed the politics. Meryl is so brilliant, all the supporting actors in the film, and the script writing and the cinematography. It was just such a well-made film, and it did have a subliminal message underneath, and it did have
what was that? Wait,
what do you think?
It was so subliminal. I don't know what it is. Come on, AfterBuzz exclusive. Let's go.
Just the message about politics, which can be a very touchy subject, and people don't really want to go there. But whether you're interested in politics or not, it was just an overall a great film. So I loved it.
Big fan.
Big fan. But how can you not? Meryl Streep, I mean, she can do no wrong.
Apparently not. You're going to get another Oscar.
I hope so.
What? What did you say?
I didn't say that.
Sure, I mean, she can do no wrong, really? I mean, Meryl can do no wrong? Death Becomes Her, really? No wrong?
Death
I'm
Becomes
kidding!
Her.
I'm kidding!
It's amazing.
It's the only one I
Susie
thought
Kurtz.
of. I was going to use Silkwood, but I knew that wouldn't work.
Oh, God.
So, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
See the man.
I like the movie. I was just kidding.
Good. It's good
So
stuff.
what are you headed to next? Meaning, what's your next thing that anything you want to promote? Anything you're doing? Anything?
Well, right now my show House of Anubis is on Nickelodeon every night at 7 o'clock, and it's about to premiere internationally in a few weeks.
Nice.
So really excited.
Congratulations.
And you manage that with school.
Overachiever.
It's difficult for sure. I had to take a semester off school to go film the show, and I was filming for 6 months. I came back on Thursday night and was back in class Friday morning. So just right back at it, and it is challenging, but I want to inspire and motivate other kids to stay in school and pursue their dreams, but I want to really stress the importance of getting an education and staying in school. So I hope that what I do, I want to kind of set, just like be a good, I don't want to say role model, but just like inspire. But no, they inspire other people that when I was 15, I thought, no way, I'm never going to college because there's no way I can do both. But I want to show people that you can.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
That is so great. Well, just because we're talking about Meryl and she's taken on this historical, amazing figure, is there anyone as an actress that has inspired you that you could see yourself and want to play in the future?
Actors that have inspired me, or just anyone?
Any historical figure that has inspired you that you would like to be a part of the project?
Who I would love to play Grace Kelly. I mean, I know there hasn't been a big film yet about her. I would say, I mean, everyone's doing the Marilyn ones now, and Audrey Hepburn is amazing, but she's a brunette.
Well, why Grace Kelly and Audrey? Just give me a little bit.
I think that I can't believe. By the way, I just said a brunette because I forgot that I am.
Yeah. That's okay.
We were confused for a second. That's all right.
We'll fix it in post.
I'm blonde. I've been a blonde my whole life. And I just dyed my hair, so I've always said I want to play Grace Kelly, but now I probably could play Audrey, right? That's so funny. I totally forgot that I'm not blonde anymore. Anyway, so sorry, what was the question?
No problem. I was just saying, why particularly Audrey or Grace Kelly?
I think I always make a joke about Grace Kelly that I want to be an actress turned princess. And that's just a joke that I used to make on set. But it's more so that she was an actress and she had an amazing career as an actress. But then she did other things. She committed herself to a life of philanthropy and she was very involved in the political realm as well. Just like Evita is another one from Argentina. She became a very active political spokeswoman and very involved in philanthropy. And I would love to one day combine my love of politics for my love of acting and do something along those lines. So they really inspire me.
Thank you very much. Those are fantastic reasons and both fantastic women. I'm sure you would do a fantastic job at portraying.
Oh gosh, that would be amazing.
Okay. All right. Well, are you? So, for your picks for Oscars, Best Actress?
Meryl.
Of course. Do you have a Best Actor pick?
I haven't seen all of them yet. SAG sent me all the films, so I need to finish watching them. So I don't want to make a pick until I've seen all of them.
I think that's fair. That's
totally fair. Do your homework first.
Yeah.
No, come on, just say it. Just throw something out there. You don't have to have anything behind it.
I think that's all the time we have right now.
Is.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, well, thank you everybody for tuning in for another AfterBuzz podcast. On behalf of the panel here, we want to thank you for seeing it. And we're coming to you live from the Kari Feinstein Oscar-style gift lounge, and we will see you next time.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.